Here's why I'm doubting. Sometimes, whether Jesus were, you all hear these glowing testimonies, how people prayed and God answered prayer. What about the people who did the same thing, prayed? Sought God's face hard, and God never came through for them. Pastor Tim Conway said, if you want to experience the love of God and power in your life, you got to pray and mean it. You got to spend hours in prayer. Well, this girl did right here. I'm not going to just show her face, but I get the impression she'd be pissed if I did. So I'm just going to let you hear her voice. But we'll commentary from here.
When I was a Christian, I was a real prayer warrior. I used to pray for just about everything. If I was watching the news and I saw a news item where people were suffering through, say, natural disaster, a flood, for example, I would pray hard that the people would receive whatever they needed to receive from God on my behalf. Because I felt I couldn't do anything where I was sitting, and watching the news was just not enough. Well, that is something I thought was helpful as a Christian, especially so when I came across a particular story back in 2004 of a young Australian woman by the name of Chappelle Corby that had been caught in Bali with 4.2 kilos worth of marijuana in her surf bag. And that's a lot of marijuana. And in Bali, if you're caught with drugs, it can be a death sentence. They execute people over there for drug offences. So I was alarmed because it snapped something in my mind, and I thought, this girl's innocent. She didn't do it. She just did not do this. And I started praying every day hard for 6 months before her trial that God would do the decent right thing and make these people realise that she hasn't done anything wrong and send her home. Okay, block her from entering the country again, fine, but send her home. And I prayed really hard. We're talking the drive to and from work the entire trip, which took often as long as 45 minutes in bad traffic.
Asking you shall receive, Jesus said. Knocking it shall be opened to you. Seeking you shall find. For whatsoever you shall ask in my name, I will do it, that the Father may be glorified.
Sometimes I'd be at work. If I was working by myself, I would pray hard about it. And sometimes I would be with my friends and we, just eating something, for example. I'm not talking when I'm eating, obviously. I'd pray about it. At night before bed, I'd pray about it. I was praying to the point where I was bordering on obsession, really. And I thought that if I did that, God will stop the madness and let her go and help these people, and it will work. It will really work. I fully believed I'd heard confirmation through God's voice, as in I heard it in my own mind.
Now that's what really bothers me. She heard the voice of God in her mind. How many people have had God confirm to them that they're going to answer their prayer, and God answered their prayers? And here, this woman had the same thing, and listen to the rest of the story.
That he would stop the madness and let it go.
Fuck these crude editing, video editing tools.
It was the word of God, and it was the voice of God. And
listen to this.
Got what I thought was his voice.
God, fuck it.
And as in, I heard it in my own mind, that he would
stop
the madness and let her go. I tested that to make sure it was the word of God, and it was the voice of God. And I got what I thought.
Like this man right here, I'm bitter and angry at God. Howard Storm said, if God, bucket. Howard Storm said, atheist professor turned Christian after near the spirits If you meet an atheist, look for the pain. Well, this is my pain. But I'm not an atheist. I know better than to be an atheist. But sometimes I had to wonder. And read this fucking comment right here. This guy prayed 3 hours a day. Christian for 10 years. Never got a fucking answer. Where was God? Where were you, God? God, are you real? I felt bitter towards God in quite some time. Now he deconverted. God, when you say anything you ask your name, are you a liar? Are you real? Or what the hell is going on? Fuck you sometimes.
Stop the madness and let her go. I tested that to make sure it was the word of God and it was the voice of God. And I got what I thought was his voice straight back saying, yes, it is me and I'm going to do this, don't worry. So the day of her trial came up and that started. And I was getting more and more nervous because I'd heard conflicting stories, and so I prayed even harder. And then it came to the day of the sentencing. I was at work that day, and I didn't have access to a radio, which is quite unfortunate, but I could deal with that. I'll just find out when I get home. And
God, bucket.
because the trial was, the sentencing was still going on while I was driving home, so I didn't actually know until I got home. And I found out that she'd been given 3 possible sentences: death, life, which is literally life, or 20 years. She got 20 years. 20 years. I thought that God was going to let her off. I thought that God was going to fix this. This was this travesty. I thought that God was on my side. I thought God was on her side. I was really angry. I didn't speak to anyone, not one word, for at least 24 hours. My hands were shaking. I didn't want to see or hear any human voices. I wanted to be left alone. And I was so angry. In my mind, I was screaming at God. I was so angry at him that I even went as far as saying, if you're not going to help us, if you aren't there to help people, if you're going to let this sort of thing happen, I want you to go away. Just go away, get lost, I don't want to know you. I was that angry, and bearing in mind, I was a very devout Christian at the time, so that's significant. And I was livid. I was so angry. Many of my Christian friends tried to say that it was God's will, or that God had a plan, or maybe that God's answer simply was no, or
what
you
a
don't
crock
know,
of
maybe
shit.
she really was guilty and God knew that. That sort of thing. Didn't help much. I eventually simmered down, although for a long time after that it was a very sore point.
Bucket.
And she's still in prison now, and she's not doing very good. She's got some serious psychological problems now, and I'm not surprised. But that wasn't the only time where I realised that prayer was a complete farce and that God wasn't there. Another example was when one of my friends, we after church we went out and had a bite to eat, and
okay, enough of this shit.
She
You
was
get the
acting
fucking
really
point.
weird the whole time at church.